Hi there, it's Dr. Nadia, founder of the Doyenne Agency and host of Straight Talk About Sales. And I had the opportunity this weekend to be a speaker at a business boot camp for small business owners. And during my presentation, I talked about really three primary things around, really looking at your mindset around sales, dealing with any fears of rejection, any negative chatter that's coming up. um, Talked about skill set, the things you really need to do, and systems. So we spent some time really looking at a high level overview of systems and really how to leverage that in your business to generate revenue, but to also just really help to make doing business and sales a little bit easier. And so, anyway, one of the questions that came up because I talked about, and I typically do when I do these trainings, I always ask people to jot down their revenue goal, because it's really important to understand where it is that you're going. You're doing a lot in your business, especially with sales and conversations and strategies and launches. Sometimes things go great, sometimes they don't. Why are you doing all of this, and what is it you're actually working towards? But it's also important to know what that number is, because that drives certain decisions that you make in your business. So when we open it up for Q&A, one person asked, how do I determine my revenue goal? And I was like, man, that's a great question. And it's one I haven't talked about in a while. So I wanted to kind of revisit this, especially as we're at the beginning of a new year. We're looking at all of our goals, our strategies. This first month is almost done, but you might be like, let's see what I can do to stay on track, get on track, or really decide to move forward with the momentum in my business. So one of the things that I answered the question this way. I said, one of the things that I really tell people, depending on where they are in their business, is to first look at what's what I call keep the lights on number. What is that number in your business that you, at least minimum, if you did nothing else, could break even, so you can pay all of the bills in your business, whether that's your business coach, any systems you're paying for, any team members. And then if your business also then funds your life, what does that number include? So sometimes business is just business, and you keep it completely separate. And then sometimes business, I need my money from my business to also fund my life. So whatever that situation is for you, taking the time to look at the numbers, because looking at the numbers really help to drive those decisions. And I find a lot of times we don't always want to look at the numbers. It's like, it's too scary, it's too stressful, it's too overwhelming. But the numbers actually give you a lot of power, because it informs your decisions. And now at least I know what I have to do in order to get to this goal. But when we don't look at our numbers, we're just kind of fumbling around in the dark. And then we wonder why we keep bumping our heads. It's like, seriously, let's get a plan. So with that, there were a couple of things that I also wanted to talk about. So one was definitely, what does that keep the lights on number? Now, and especially if you're still trying to get to that point where you have consistent revenue in your business. I understand. And consistent, it's like, what is that number? So where is it? Because I don't know if we, let's see, consistent can look different. I'll just put it that way. I won't go down that rabbit hole today. The other thing is, once you get to that number, whatever that number is, maybe, and let's just say it's $5,000 a month. I want to get to $5,000 a month in my business. That'll be nice. And that gives me $60,000 in annual revenue. I can pay things. I'm not stressing. I'm not losing my mind. It's a great place. I feel like I have room. I have cushion. That's great, right? So then you look at, well, what happens when you get to that point? And now you're looking at, okay, what do I do to go to the next level? Well, there are a number of things that you can look at. One is you can do a percentage increase. So some people just have a straight across the board. I'm just going to do a percentage increase, 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever that number is, to increase my revenue by for the next year. Some will say double. I did great this year. Fabulous. I hit 60,000. Boom. Next year, I want to go for my 120. Great. Doesn't matter what it is. One of the things that I looked at for my own business was, what were some of the goals that I had in my business and in my personal life that I wanted to achieve, that maybe I had, that not even maybe, that I had yet to achieve the way I wanted to achieve them. So one such goal was travel for me and Toby. We want to do some more traveling together. I travel a lot for work, but typically Toby's at home because he's also working. So we wanted to make sure we work that in. So what does that look like? And how do I get my business in a position to now be able to contribute to making that happen? And starting to plan, if I add that as a line item, as a goal, what does that number look like? And how do we now achieve it? So those are also things that you can take into account. Is it a percentage? Is it a combination of the two? Really taking time to look at what's business, but also personal. Like, you are the hardest working person in your business. What are some of the ways that you can reward yourself? Is it giving yourself a raise? I looked at that too. I was like, this year I think I want a raise, right? So there are always these different ways that you can look at how that number comes about. But the most important thing is that you spend time thinking about what that number is and mapping out the strategy to what it looks like. So towards the end of last year, I started putting together 2019 projections as to what I would like to see coming in the new year, but also leaving some room for some stuff that may pop, that may happen that I'm not thinking about or not prepared for, some surprise. We have some things to deal with. So those are some things to really take into consideration. Another thing that I really want to talk about is also understanding, as you're putting together the plan of what you want to see, what does that also mean in terms of other expenses that may come up in terms of support that you may need to get there? So one of the things with growth is sometimes growth requires money. There's a part where you can manage. If you're a solopreneur, you get a point, you and maybe a VA to help with it. There is a point in your business where y'all can pretty much hold it down. But then where's that point where you're like, I need more help? Who is that help? And what does that look like in terms of clients, number of clients you would be able to serve? What is the price around that? What are those additional expenses or investments you need to make in order to then be able to hit that goal? So you want to also look at the two as you're looking at your revenue goals, but also keeping a close eye on what's having to go out in order to make that happen. So we really have to look at it. Sometimes we don't do ourselves justice, in my opinion, when we just look at the revenue goal and we just say we're just going to do this and I get X amount of clients and I make X amount of revenue. But how much of that money do you actually get to keep in your business? How much of that money do you want to keep in that business? How much of that money are you paying yourself to make sure you have a regular paycheck? Like, all of those are really important questions to answer as your business continues to grow. So then from there, you can do the math in terms of reverse engineering it, looking at your programs, products, and services, looking at your sales cycle. How often, sometimes some businesses have launch models, others have events, whatever model. A lot of businesses have a combination. Whatever it is for your business, what does that look like? And now it's just a matter of the numbers. How many of these do I need to sell in order to hit my numbers? And then how many leads do I need to get in front of in order to get the conversions I need, or my percentages based on maybe previous averages, if you have that data, in order to be able to hit my numbers. So then you just start kind of going backwards. And it's like, oh, okay, now what do I have to do to get in front of that number of people in order to generate the number of leads? See where I'm going with this? Great. So that's a big, I just wanted to take time to go a little bit deeper with that. I think, as we're spending some time in the beginning of the year, or for a lot of us, we did a lot of that at the end of the year, but you're also kind of tweaking and adjusting your plan. It's important to look at these things and really take into account the numbers, but also looking at your business, your family, your goals. It's really easy to jump on the bandwagon. I want to make six figures. What exactly does six figures mean? That's a wide stretch. 100,000 or 999. Yeah, you get my point, right? So there's a big wide range. It's considered six figures. Where do you want to fall into that? And then what does it take to get there? And do you really, does that align with where you are right now in the season of your life? Do you want to do that? All those questions you have to, and only you can answer. And then whatever the answer is, it doesn't matter. There's no judgment. You pick that number and you take that number and you work towards making that number happen. So that's my spiel. That's my elongated answer around setting your revenue goals. Really finding something that's comfortable. Oh, no, not comfortable. I want you to find your comfortable number, and then I want you to stretch, because stretching is always good. And it's a goal. If you don't get there, but you get closer, it'll push you past your comfort zone. But you want to stretch yourself. I'm gonna leave it there. So I was going to go on another tangent, trying to stay focused, Nadia. So again, just another thing. Think about what's the number that will keep your lights on if you're still working to get to that point. If you're already at a point where you're like, I'm hitting my revenue, I'm where I want to be, I can keep the lights on, I'm not stressing about, paying basic stuff like, your basic living, then look at, what is it, the percentage increase that you want in terms of what you did last year in order to stretch. Then you want to count the costs. What does that look like in terms of, do I need additional support? So, for example, one of the goals that we set this year, or that I set, was that I wanted our agency to help clients generate $5 million in revenue. It's a pretty lofty goal. But I also, in counting the costs, realized that our team needed to grow in order to make that happen. So that's an additional investment or expense or line item that we did not have last year. So that's something to take into account. So that's what I'm talking about when you're looking at your goals in terms of what it is you want to do. And then, of course, then you can reverse engineer it from there, looking at what do you need to sell, how much you need to sell, your basic strategy and your sales cycle in your business in order to achieve that overall goal. So that is Nadia's spiel on setting revenue goals for 2019. I hope that helps you really to get on track, stay on track, and stay focused this year, because it is possible. And I'm really excited to hear, what your strategies are. What are some of your strategies that you've used in order to set your revenue goal for this year? How did you come up with that number? What excites you about that number? Would love to hear your input, your insight, your suggestions, all that cool stuff. I like to hear from you. So, be sure to share. You can send an email, you can post or respond where we post the videos on YouTube and on social media. So yeah, and if you would like to schedule time, if you have a question, you're like, okay, that sounded great, Dr. Nadia, but you don't know me, you don't know my business, and that just made me have like 17 more questions, which happens, then feel free to head on over to meetwithdrnadia.com. That's meetwithdrnadia.com, and set up some time for us to chat. All right, I am signing off. I hope you have an amazing 2019. We are going to rock it out. We are going to exceed all of our goals. It's going to be a fabulous year, and I can't wait to hear all about it. This is Dr. Nadia with Straight Talk About Sales, signing off. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.